Long hair and short passing, Johan Cruyff embodied freedom and total football. A great coach during the 90s, the Dutch maestro laid the foundations of how the game should be played at Barcelona. He was the creators of the club's DNA, whose very evolution finds its way back to his playing days at Ajax. While he passed away in 2016, Cruyff's ideas, memories and ideology survive to this very day. Most of us watching this video didn't have the pleasure to watch him live, but his accomplishments are so great that you can't even consider yourself a football fan if you don't know who Johan Cruyff was. 3 European Cups at Ajax, 3 Ballon d'Ors, a league title with Barcelona, and a World Cup final appearance for the Netherlands in 1974 are all great achievements. Surely there are a few players who have achieved more, but can these players ever claim to have revolutionized the game so much? The Dutchman will forever remain the most important man in the game's history. Half a dozen players can claim to have possessed the same gifts, but no one has or will ever be able to have the influence that Cruyff had. He was the Miles Davis of football, who revolutionized his art twice, first as a player for Ajax in the early 70s, and then 20 years later as the manager of Barcelona. So, let's quickly start talking about Johan Cruyff, and find out why the legendary playmaker was unable to represent the Netherlands at the 1978 World Cup. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know everything you need to about one of the greatest players and managers the game has ever seen. And if you're a true football fan, subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell icon too. As a player, Johan Cruyff broke the strict division of labour that confined defenders to defend and attackers to attack. The game was still being played at a monotonous pace and was waiting for someone to have the audacity to innovate it. At Ajax, Cruyff started with the number 17 and then switched to the number 9. However, it was the number 14 that was going to forge his legend. He relied on movement, anticipation, and the use of spaces. He was a conductor who performed in front of thousands of people to score under the tutelage of another legendary manager, Rinus Michels. He ran faster, saw faster and thought faster than any player on the pitch. He was no longer Miles Davis, he was the sporting incarnation of Austrian conductor Herbert von Karajan, who ruled over the Berlin Philharmonic and European classical music for 3 decades. Cruyff was a thoroughbred with an elegant poise and a remarkable technique that would melt the very defenders tasked with neutralising him. He had the feline reflexes of Pelé, the laser vision of Michel Platini, and quick feet of Lionel Messi. As a coach, Johan Cruyff did something that most great former players find it difficult to do. He successfully managed to take the best qualities he had as a player and injected them into players. He was single-handedly responsible for the development of Marco van Basten, Dennis Bergkamp, and Pep Guardiola. His techniques might have seemed surreal, but in the long run everything made sense. For example, Cruyff was particular about having the field watered before each game for better ball transition. He liked to have 2 wingers on the sidelines and forced his players to always offer 3 different passing options to whoever had the ball. With him on the bench, clad in a raincoat and a lollipop stick instead of his customary unfiltered camels, Barcelona dominated Spain, winning the league 4 times on the trot and lifting the Champions League in 1992. Interestingly, Barcelona won the final in the same Wankdorf Stadium where Cruyff's Ajax had lost the final to SL Benfica in 1961, which was also the last time the Portuguese Giants won anything in Europe following Bela Gutmann's prophetic curse. Coming back to Cruyff's arrival at Camp Nou, the Catalan Giants were a laughingstock of Spanish football in the 60s and the hard men of football in the 80s. Cruyff, though, wanted to change the perception and wanted the club to work within 4 pillars of his philosophy: technique, intelligence, personality, and speed. He was the one who modernised La Masia from a simple housing school to a finishing school for the brightest prospects on the planet. When he returned to the club as a manager, Cruyff was looking at a generation of young players ready to give it their all. If the Catalan club's academy is recognised worldwide today, it owes it to Cruyff, who transformed it. In 2010, Spain became world champions, and 6 of those players were graduates of La Masia. Rinus Michels created total football in the Dutch capital, with Cruyff at the heart of everything about the philosophy. Cruyff managed to create an Amsterdam-Barcelona linkage that culminated in the Barcelona dream team of the early 90s, led by Pep Guardiola, who turned out to be his best student, enjoying unprecedented success as a manager at Barcelona before doing the same in Germany and England. After retiring as a manager in 1996, Cruyff's influence never waned. He wasn't directly related to football like his friends Michel Platini and Franz Beckenbauer, but his influence was still there. Pep Guardiola took up his mantle and gave the keys to the kingdom to Barcelona through the likes of Xavi, Andres Iniesta and others. All these men were bottle-fed with the concepts of football written by Cruyff all those years ago. A player, a coach and a trainer. Cruyff was no ordinary man. Born in 1947 into a modest family, he lost his father at the age of 12. His mother took up extra work to make ends meet, but her son's ability on the ball made sure she didn't have to work all day long in order to do that. As a player, it wasn't easy to consider him a midfielder or an attacker. His talents were so extraordinary that he enjoyed total freedom on the field. As a person, Johan Cruyff was someone who would buck the trend, and only his wife seemed to have some authority over him. At Barcelona, he seized the very essence of Catalan autonomist feeling and read Le Monde in the locker room. He even challenged the notorious Franco administration by giving the first name Jordi to his son, even though the name was banned by the regime. Legend has it that Cruyff started coaching in 1980 in a game that he attended as a spectator. Unable to bear Ajax being spanked by Twente Enschede, Cruyff descended from the stands, had the gate opened, and began barking instructions at the edge of the pitch. Ajax won that game 5-3 after initially losing 3-1. At times, a legend is much more beautiful than reality. The Netherlands lost the 1974 World Cup final to Germany. However, they didn't lose because of cold German realism. They lost because they flaunted the spirit of the game too much. According to the referee of that final, the late Jack Taylor, who said that at a certain point, Cruyff wanted to do everything on his own. Cruyff could be haughty, arrogant, venal and egocentric at times as well. At the age of 37, he signed for Ajax's bitter rivals Feyenoord, after the Amsterdam club refused to offer him a new contract. It was a poor call from the club's management, as Cruyff helped Feyenoord to a league title and KNVB Cup. In 2008, 8 years before his passing, the Flying Dutchman revealed that he decided to withdraw from the 1978 World Cup in Argentina because an attempt had been made to kidnap him a few months earlier. In 1978, Cruyff had decided to refuse endorsing the Argentine dictatorship amid problems related to his security. After 30 years of mystery, however, Cruyff opened up about his withdrawal from the competition. The legendary Dutchman said that he actually had a gun pointed at his head. "I had a gun pointed at my head, I was tied up, my wife was also tied up, and my children were in the apartment. There are times when other values take precedence in life. To play a World Cup, you have to be at 200%. Following the incident, Dutch police guarded the Cruyff household and escorted the children to school for 4 months. Cruyff, on the other hand, never provided further details on how the kidnapping attempt failed. Despite petitions from supporters and even the intervention of Queen Juliana of the Netherlands, Johan Cruyff decided to end his international career in 1977. It was a shame that he couldn't be there to help the Oranje scale greater heights, given his contributions to the team's qualification. Maybe the Dutch would have been world champions in Argentina if he'd participated, but at the end of the day, the legendary player prioritized his physical and mental well-being above anything else. The Netherlands lost the final 3-1 to Argentina as World Cup heartbreak continued for the Dutch Giants. Upon his passing, former Switzerland manager Vladimir Petkovic and defender Tim Klose agreed on one thing that Cruyff brought to the game. Both men admitted that Cruyff looked at football in such a way that allowed even the smaller players to shine. Klose accurately pointed out that without Cruyff, we would not have seen the emergence of players like Iniesta or Messi. While he may be gone, Cruyff's ideas are very much alive. Barcelona are a club in turmoil at the moment, but in the midst of all this negativity, they've promoted several young players to the first team. The likes of Ansu Fati, Pedri and Gavi are going to become huge stars and will help the club return to the lofty heights that it's accustomed to. And all that's possible because of the revolution brought upon by Johan Cruyff.